I'm Paula, 27 years old, and if you'd asked anyone in my family to describe me, they'd probably say I was quiet, sensitive, or maybe difficult. My mother always said those words with a sharp edge, like sensitivity was something I should be ashamed of. I've always been the black sheep. While my older brother Mark was the golden child, the one who went into business, wore suits, and made mom proud, I was the creative dreamer who packed her bags and left for the city at 19. I didn't leave because I hated my family. I left because home stopped feeling like home. After my parents divorced, Mom changed. She went from being this warm, protective woman who read bedtime stories to a cold, perfectionist drill sergeant. She'd criticize everything I did, from how I dressed to the way I spoke. Dad tried to shield me, but after he left, there was no buffer. Holidays were tense. Dinner conversations felt like job interviews. The house, though, that house was my safe place. Even when Mom slammed doors or Mark ignored me, I'd retreat to my bedroom and feel okay. The creak of the stairs, the smell of old pine floorboards, and the way sunlight streamed through my lace curtains, it grounded me. When I moved out, I told myself I'd never go back, but I always thought I'd have the option. I thought if I ever wanted to, I could knock on that door and walk back into the home that raised me. So when Mark texted me last month saying, "Hey, did Mom tell you she's selling the house?" My stomach dropped. No, she hadn't told me. Of course she hadn't. That text was the spark that ignited everything that followed. When I called Mark back, his voice was casual, like this was no big deal. "Yeah, she said it's too much upkeep, you know. Said you don't visit anyway." That stung more than I wanted to admit. "She didn't even ask me?" He sighed. "Paula, you've been gone for years. You barely call. Mom probably figured you didn't care." Didn't care? The accusation hit me like a slap. Just because I'd built a life away from this small town didn't mean I didn't care. I'd stayed away to protect myself from her constant criticism, not because I didn't love this house or the memories tied to it. Later that night, I scrolled through listings until I found it. My childhood home, stripped of warmth, photographed with cold, sterile lighting. The ad described it as a quaint fixer-upper with potential. My heart clenched. This wasn't a fixer-upper. This was where I learned to ride a bike, where Dad painted the living room yellow because I said it felt happy, where I buried my first pet in the backyard under the oak tree. I called Mom, hoping this was some misunderstanding, but she picked up with her clipped, annoyed tone. "Yes, I'm selling it. It's too big for me now. What's the problem?" "The problem," I snapped, "is you didn't even tell me." She scoffed. "Why would I? You're never here. This is my house, Paula. Don't make this about you." That was Mom in a nutshell. Everything was always hers, her decisions, her rules. I hung up the phone feeling small, angry, and helpless. But beneath all that pain, a thought began to form, small and sharp, like a thorn. Maybe I wasn't as powerless as she thought. I decided to visit that weekend. Pulling into the driveway felt like stepping back in time, except there were strangers in my home, poking around like it was an exhibit. A middle-aged couple examined the kitchen cabinets while their realtor chirped about great bones and investment potential. My stomach churned. Mom greeted me with a tight smile. "What are you doing here, Paula?" "I wanted to talk, in private," I said, forcing my voice steady. She waved me off. "I'm busy. These are serious buyers." "Mom!" I snapped, my voice louder than I intended. The CO it. Upple turned to look at me. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Paula, don't embarrass yourself," she hissed. "This is happening whether you like it or not." Her dismissiveness made my blood boil. "You didn't even ask if I wanted it," I said, my voice cracking. She straightened, her arms crossed. "Because you couldn't afford it. Let's be real, Paula. You've never been responsible with money. You ran off to the city chasing silly dreams. This house isn't your burden to carry." Burden. That's what she called the only place that ever felt safe to me. I swallowed back tears, feeling like I was 13 again, being scolded for not living up to her expectations. For the rest of the showing, I stayed silent, but inside, something shifted. She thought I couldn't afford it. She thought I was still that scared little girl she could control. She had no idea how hard I'd worked, how much I'd saved. By the time I drove away, one thing was clear. If she wouldn't protect the home that raised us, I would. That night, I sat in my motel room staring at the peeling wallpaper and clutching a styrofoam cup of coffee, replaying her words over and over. This isn't your burden to carry. She'd said it so coldly, like all those years of me sweeping that kitchen floor, decorating the Christmas tree, and crying into my pillow in that tiny bedroom meant nothing. I wanted to scream. Instead, I called her again. Mom, can we talk without an audience this time? She sighed heavily. Paula, I'm exhausted. What is there to talk about? Why didn't you tell me? My voice cracked, but I pushed through. Why didn't you give me a chance to buy it from you? That house isn't just a building, it's where I grew up. She scoffed. You're being dramatic. I need the money, and you're too busy playing artist in the city. You wouldn't understand. My grip tightened on the phone. You think I haven't worked hard? I've been working 2 jobs for years, Mom. Oh, Paula, she interrupted, her tone dripping with condescension. You've always been so emotional. You left this town and this family years ago. Why are you acting like this matters now? Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. Because it does matter, I whispered. There was a pause, then she said sharply, You're overreacting. Grow up. And she hung up. I stared at my phone, hands trembling. My own mother had just dismissed me like I was a stranger. She didn't care that she was ripping away the one piece of my childhood I had left. But I cared, and I wouldn't let her take it from me so easily. I lay awake that night in the stiff motel bed, staring at the water-stained ceiling, memories flooding back like waves crashing over me. This wasn't just a house, it was my entire childhood pressed into brick and mortar. I could still picture the warm glow of the kitchen lights on winter mornings, Dad flipping pancakes while I sat at the counter swinging my legs, Mom humming softly before everything in her life hardened. I remembered the summer I learned to ride my bike, pedaling down the long driveway with Dad jogging behind me, laughing when I wobbled. The oak tree out back where we carved our initials, the one he promised would always be here for you, kiddo. And the night he left, when I was 12, standing in the same driveway, tears freezing on my cheeks, while Mom yelled at him from the porch. I'd run upstairs, slammed my door, and sworn I'd never feel so powerless again. But Mom, she'd changed after that night. She stopped laughing. She stopped cooking. She filled the house with tension instead of love. I stayed hidden in my room most days, my safe haven of books, sketches, and dreams. That house wasn't perfect, but it had been mine. Now she was selling it to strangers, strangers who would paint over the yellow walls Dad insisted on, who'd probably tear down the oak tree because it was too close to the fence my chippa staked thinking about it. I'd spent years quietly building myself up, working 2 jobs, freelancing late at night, pouring every spare dollar into savings. I'd told no one, not even Mark. Mom thought I was still her irresponsible dreamer daughter. But she didn't know that I had more than enough to buy the house outright, and I would. By morning I'd made up my mind. The fear, the sadness, they'd hardened into resolve. I wasn't going to beg her for scraps of my own history. I was going to take it back. I called my realtor, a no-nonsense woman named Angela I'd worked with before when I was apartment hunting. She answered with a groggy, "Hello?" and I blurted out, "Angela, I need you to find out who's buying my mother's house." There was a pause, then a slow whistle. "Sounds messy. What's going on, Paula?" "I want to buy it," I said firmly. "No, I'm going to buy it." Angela chuckled softly, then said, "Well, money talks. Send me your budget." I sent her the numbers within the hour. Years of sacrifices stared back at me on that spreadsheet, skipped vacations, worn-out clothes, endless double shifts. Every penny I'd saved was there, and it was enough. By lunchtime, Angela had a plan. "We'll keep your name out of it," she said. "I'll make the offer through a trust. She'll never know it's you." Perfect. I signed the paperwork over the next week with shaky hands, half terrified, half exhilarated. I didn't tell a soul, not Mark, not my friends, not even my boyfriend. This was mine, finally mine. When Angela called to say, "Congrats, Paula, the house is yours," I felt a rush of vindication, but I didn't gloat. I let Mom continue her triumphant phone calls to Mark, bragging about selling the house at a great price and closing a chapter. She thought she'd won. She thought I'd been shut out again. I smiled every time she said it because I knew what she didn't. The next chapter was mine to write. 2 weeks later, the paperwork was finalized. The house, the creaky floors, the chipped paint, the oak tree Dad planted, was legally mine. I remember holding the keys for the first time, running my fingers over the cold metal, feeling the weight of everything they represented. I'd won. But I didn't feel victorious. Not yet. Instead of celebrating, I drove to the house late at night, parking far down the street so Mom wouldn't see me. The neighborhood was quiet, just the hum of distant traffic and a few porch lights glowing faintly. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell hit me first, a mix of dust, faint lemon cleaner, and something warm and familiar that brought tears to my eyes. I wandered through every room, running my hands over the banister Dad had built, the wall in the hallway where my growth chart was still faintly penciled in. The place was empty now, stripped bare by the movers, but I could see it all in my head. Christmas mornings by the fireplace, Mom's perfume lingering in the hallway when she still cared, the slam of Mark's bedroom door when he didn't. Angela had been careful to keep my name out of everything. Mom was convinced she'd sold it to an anonymous buyer and had washed her hands of it. She bragged to Mark about finally being free of that house, and each time I heard her say it over the phone, I felt this simmering mix of satisfaction and sadness. I wasn't ready to tell her yet. No, I wanted her to walk back in and realize she hadn't erased me from this place. I wanted her to see that I'd taken back the one thing she couldn't rip away, my home, my memories, my childhood. 2 weeks after the sale closed, Mom called me out of the blue. "I'm stopping by the house one last time to grab a few boxes," she said casually, as if she wasn't ripping open an old wound. "The buyers don't mind." I swallowed a laugh. "No, they don't mind," I murmured. That was my chance. I got there early, unlocking the door and walking through the empty rooms that felt like mine again. I set a vase of fresh flowers on the kitchen counter, not because I was trying to make a statement, but because this was home now, and I wanted it to feel alive again. When she arrived, her heels clicked sharply against the porch. "Paula, what are you doing here?" Her tone was sharp, defensive. "Just thought I'd stop by," I said, leaning casually against the counter. She stepped inside, her eyes narrowing as she took in the flowers. "Why are these here?" "Because I live here now," I said calmly, pulling the keys from my pocket and dangling them in front of her. For a moment, she just stared at me. Then her face went pale. "What are you talking about?" "I bought it, Mom. The house. It's mine." Her jaw dropped. She blinked, shaking her head like she hadn't heard me right. "You... what?" I smiled. "You sold it to me?" She stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing, her confidence cracking. For once, she didn't have a snappy comeback. "I wanted this house," I continued softly, "so I made sure I'd never lose it." The silence between us was deafening. She looked around the room, her hands trembling, as if she couldn't believe the power shift that had just happened. She sank onto the empty couch frame the movers had left behind, her hands gripping the edge like she needed to steady herself. Why would you do that, Paula?" Her voice was quieter than I'd heard in years, stripped of all that sharp authority she always carried. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. "Because this house isn't just wood and nails to me, Mom. It's where I grew up. It's where I felt safe when everything else in this family was falling apart." My throat tightened. "You didn't even ask me. You decided I didn't matter, like always." Her eyes darted around the bare room, and I saw her swallow hard. I didn't think you cared," she whispered, her voice trembling. That sentence cut deep. I laughed bitterly. "You never asked if I cared. You just assumed I'd walk away, like Dad did, like Mark always does. But I never stopped loving this place. I saved for years, Mom. Every late-night shift, every freelance job, every penny I could scrape together, I did it so I'd never have to lose this." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "I didn't realize—" "No, you didn't," I said, softer now. "You never saw me. You never believed I could stand on my own. But here I am, Mom. And this house, it's mine now. You don't get to take it away from me." The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the old fridge in the corner. For the first time in my life, she looked small, like she'd been stripped of her armor. She nodded slowly, her lips trembling, but no words came out. I'd finally reclaimed more than just the house. I'd reclaimed myself, Owning that house turned out to be about so much more than bricks, furniture, or nostalgia. It was about reclaiming my sense of self. For years, I'd carried around the weight of being the quiet one, the sensitive one, the daughter who never lived up to expectations. I let those words define me. Every time my mother dismissed me or ignored my feelings, a small part of me started to believe I really wasn't capable, that I didn't matter. But standing there with the keys in my hand, looking into my mother's stunned eyes, I realized something. I didn't need her approval or her recognition anymore. I had worked tirelessly to build a life of my own, and all those years of sacrifice had given me something much more valuable than property. They gave me proof of my own strength. Buying the house wasn't revenge, though I'd be lying if I said her shock didn't sting with a bit of justice. It was closure. It was my way of protecting the only space that had ever felt truly safe to me, a sanctuary she had been willing to sell off without a thought. And more than anything, it was a statement to myself that I had always been capable, even if she couldn't see it. Sometimes the people closest to us are the ones least likely to believe in us. Sometimes they're so caught up in their own pain and bitterness that they can't see who we've become. It's easy to internalize their doubts and criticisms, to carry them like truths. But this experience taught me that validation doesn't have to come from anyone else. We all have the power to reclaim our stories, even if it means quietly working, planning, and waiting for the right moment. You don't always have to scream to be heard. Sometimes, simply showing what you've built is the loudest statement of all. I didn't just buy a house, I bought back a piece of myself, and I want anyone who feels unseen, unheard, or underestimated to know this. You are more than what people believe you are. Sometimes proving that starts with believing it yourself,